You know how sometimes you understand something a certain way in your brain, but you act a different way in real life when the situation comes up? So that's one thing that I try to be aware of, especially when I'm thinking of things that are are against what I would have generally thought. So for one example, just to be less broad, um, I hadn't thought a whole lot about the wage gap and you can provide sources on both sides that there is a wage gap, that there isn't a wage gap, a gender wage gap. However, I've been trying to understand, I guess, for myself why there shouldn't be one if there does exist one. And the main reason that I have is that skilled work, a lot of skilled work is done with the hands, and so those are dexterously and construction wise very similar no matter what you have between your legs. And especially the instruments that we use, they're not meant for a certain size of hands or a certain construct of hands, but just for hands to be able to work with them, manipulate whatever it is at the workplace. And so I got to test that quite a bit here this past week because, well, by quite a bit, I mean one very large test. So I went to the gynecologist for the first time ever in my life. There's a lot of reasons for that. But anyway, the reason why I went is because I am pregnant and I just wanted to check up and make sure that everything is going okay for the new life. And so when I went in and my doctor turned out was going to be identify as male, I had to remember my argument is that skilled work is done with hands and it doesn't matter male or female. And so when we got in there, and of course, my first reaction to things kind of told him that it was going to make me uncomfortable because that's my brain action, or my brain understanding thought is a little bit different than my action as I'm trying to move it together. So then eventually what ended up happening was he offered that there could be a female nurse come in and do the examination if I was uncomfortable with him. And the thought that came to mind was, you're going to be using what was it? It was in Czech, so let me translate it. You're not going to use your penis, so why would the hands matter? Or why would different hands matter? However, thankfully, since it is in Czech, I use my language barrier advantage to think again of how to react so that I don't make people uncomfortable. So instead I just said, no, it doesn't make me uncomfortable, it's fine. Because it really didn't, up here it didn't. The rest of my body felt a little uncomfortable, but only for a second, and then anyway, it was fine. It was great. It was a good test. Now, I tried not to make him feel uncomfortable with the words that I said, but then, of course, when you have to be sitting on the table naked, mostly, from the waist down, for that examination, then when the nurse came in, I haven't shaved in 2 years because I have a goal to have some kind of interaction with Ellen before I shave. I will shave when we interact. That hasn't happened yet. So he was fine, I didn't recognize any double takes, but the nurse could not look away. It was really funny. So that's fine. So maybe he felt uncomfortable anyway, and I could have just referenced genitalia in his work, which was unnecessary because it's handwork. People use their hands for skilled work. So what is some thought that you have where your understanding of something is different than your actual what you do with that understanding in a given situation? It's a very complicated question, but I couldn't really figure out where do you need to close the gap between your understanding and what you do? How about that question? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thanks.